To talk now about the impact of today's decision, we're joined by Grace Howard. Grace is Assistant Professor of Justice Studies at San Jose State University.
Grace, your reaction to this are going to obviously be a lot of legal ripple effects from this thing. What do you expect will be first in a long line of potential challenges or at least legal pushback on this decision?
Well, this is really tricky. What kind of legal pushback can we do, right? The Supreme Court, this is an independent branch of government. I know that the federal government, or the executive branch, rather, has been talking about using that bully pulpit to urge Congress to pass some kind of affirmative law protecting abortion at the federal level. However, the odds of this succeeding seem incredibly slim, honestly. I don't have a lot of hope for any sort of abortion protective changes happening at the federal level anytime in the near future.
Grace, there's concern, as you know, about things like women maybe being prosecuted for crossing state lines to get an abortion, or whether abortion medication can be mailed across state lines. What are some of the scenarios that you are concerned about?
Well, you know, something that we've already seen, even with Roe on the books, is that there are hundreds, thousands of people with the capacity for pregnancy who have already been charged with crimes against their own pregnancies throughout the United States. And I'm talking about for stuff like if you've ever expressed uncertainty about a pregnancy and then have a miscarriage, they might charge you with a crime. It's terrifying, especially when pregnancy is such a complicated thing. In terms of other fears, you know, with some states enshrining the right to abortion and other states banning it outright and attempting to ban travel to other states to access that form of care, I think we can anticipate a lot of state versus state lawsuits, which will tie up the courts and be really, really costly. I'd love to see that money put towards actually helping people get abortion care, but we're not quite doing that. Of course, you know, there are also really tremendous implications for other rights. The way that this decision is written makes it clear the court does not currently believe that the right to privacy is a real thing, and so we should anticipate the right of gay people to get married to go away. We should anticipate weakening the protections for contraception, even getting rid of them entirely. It's possible that they could even overrule Lawrence versus Texas, which is the Supreme Court case that made gay sex legal. It's during Pride Month, right? So privacy is a really fundamental thing. This is how we make our families. And now the court is saying it doesn't exist as a right.
Now, you're talking about women going to jail for trying to get an abortion, and even many people who do support the idea of banning abortion maybe think that might be going too far. I'm curious if you think that's going to be a reality. Are we going to start to see headlines of a 15-year-old incest survivor who's pregnant goes to jail because she tried to get an abortion, or a rape victim going to jail because she tried to get an abortion? Is that going to happen? Do you think that's going to happen?
It's already happening. It's been happening for years. You know, different states, if you are unable to access legal abortion where you live, which has been true for decades, even with the protections of Roe v. Wade, people will try to take their health care into their own hands, and that does make them legally imperiled. What it looks like in practice, it is a lot of the time friends, neighbors, partners, family members, or even your own doctors reporting you to the police. People have been brought to jail immediately after giving birth to babies or having miscarriages because they didn't do everything right. And I would like to say also, though some of these pregnancy criminalization laws include statements that say we're not going to punish pregnant people, states that have those on the books now are also punishing pregnant people, right? So Texas, for example, says its fetal harm bill cannot be used to punish the person who's carrying that pregnancy. And yet Texas has arrested and prosecuted many, many people just for that thing. So, you know, in some ways, this shows us the weakness of the law. And though I know I'm talking about a lot of doom and gloom stuff, honestly, the thing that gives me hope is that our humanity does not come from the law. And no matter what the law says, people are going to be willing to stand up and protect each other and do what they have to do to ensure we have our reproductive autonomy.
Grace, it sounds like the decision today is bringing into sharper focus something you've been talking about and writing about for quite some time. On another level, speaking of privacy, there's concern that in the most restrictive states that they could use search history or apps or even text messages to enforce abortion law. Does that seem,
yes.
and you're not surprised?
Not at all. That's something that we've also already seen. So there's a case that got some attention out of Indiana some years ago of someone who had a miscarriage and was arrested and prosecuted and ultimately convicted for causing this miscarriage. Some of the evidence they used against her in court were text messages to a friend saying, "I'm pregnant and I don't really know what I want to do about this. I think I don't want to have this baby," right? And so it's really important to learn how to use web security, right? If you're going to be talking about illegal activity, something like getting an abortion in a state where it's now a crime, you need to be very cautious about that. Don't send text messages. Leave your phone at home. You even need to be careful about what you use for Google searching. So try to use encrypted web browsers, try to use encrypted text message services, even something like buying pregnancy tests using a credit card. They could search that and use that as evidence against you.
Grace Howard, assistant professor from San Jose State University. A lot to go through in the coming days, weeks, months, maybe years ahead. Thank you for your perspective. Really appreciate it.